Hey guys, another screenplay for you today. I promise I'd crank these out more often now instead of like months apart because that was just ridiculous. Anyways, though, this is the fourth Green Lantern one, so I highly recommend you check out my other Green Lantern ones. Those are always my favorite to write, actually. You probably tell because my original Green Lantern trilogy pretty much ruled my DC Cinematic Universe. Like, I started off with Green Lantern, Hal Jordan did some crazy awesome shit throughout my screenplays, and eventually became Ion. If you haven't heard my second Justice League screenplay, that one was really fun for me to write. A lot of people seem to really like that one, especially with how Jordan does the dark side at the end. So this one, obviously, if I haven't said it already, it's with John Stewart. You can probably tell by the thumbnail and everything, and also because it's called Rebirth. So yeah, let's get started. This one isn't as long as I think as the other ones are, which is probably good for you guys, and for me, I guess, because I can say it faster, render it faster, put it out there faster. But yeah, without further ado, as always, it's for listening, not for viewing per se. So if you want to open up a new tab, go ahead. Turn over your phone if you listen to it on your mobile. Go ahead. The image isn't going to change until the video is over. So just enjoy the story I'm telling you guys, and go check out the other screenplays if you want. You don't really have to check them out for this one because obviously it's a good jumping on point because it's the first one with John Stewart. But yeah, let's begin. So the film starts in Detroit, Michigan, with John Stewart. He's leaving the architecture firm he works at. I picture John Stewart more like late 30s, maybe reaching his 40s at this point. So he actually goes back to his apartment, and we see some military paraphernalia around there, kind of hinting at his history in the Marine Corps. Now, John eats dinner while sketching designs for a building with his roommate, Kyle. Now, Kyle, who's Kyle Rayner, I don't say his full name ever, like in the screenplay, but it is Kyle Rayner. He's an artist. He lives with John, and I imagine him more as like a younger 30s, maybe late 20s kind of character, age-wise. John starts a late-night workout, because he does keep up his physique. That's one thing I keep with the characters, that he's in very, very good shape naturally. He starts a late night workout as we end up transitioning. No, I said blah blah blah. I don't know what I said. Ends up transitioning to the next day at the firm. So John's giving a presentation actually to a bunch of people in a room about a building design he has. Hopefully that could be implemented for a contract the firm is trying to get. To make a new building, because obviously Detroit's trying to do some, initiatives to get the city up and running again. And, it's all kind of going well until they all start hearing some panic sounds outside of the room, like people like screaming and, things that aren't naturally happening in an office. John and a bunch of other people obviously in the room go outside, and John asks what's going on when someone tells him that one of the secretary interns is outside the window, ready to jump off, basically commit suicide. So John's boss, Mike, calls 911, and everyone tries figuring out the best course of action. Like, what should they do? Like, should they not intervene? Should they try helping her out? Like, what should they do? John, he goes out and says that he's going to talk to her, or at least the best he can, keep her from jumping until the police, paramedics, what have you, arrive. Because, they're usually trained for stuff like this. So John gets to the intern, who says that her name is Samantha. Now John asks Samantha, why is she doing this? Why is she, gonna jump off the building? Because her life's gonna end. There's no replays. She says she's doing this because her boyfriend, who's stationed overseas in the army, just died, and obviously she's very sad about this. But she feels like she has nothing to live for at this point, because I guess when he was going to come back after he finished his tour, they were going to get married and all this, great stuff. Like they talked about their future together, and to her, he was her future. So without him, she doesn't see a future anymore. John, comforts her, and obviously he can relate somewhat to this, and tells her that that he understands what she's going through. And John reveals that when he was in the Marines before, he's a veteran now, but when he was active duty, he was stationed in Afghanistan. He was a scout sniper, and one day his platoon was spotted and actually attacked, obviously, because they were spotted by the enemy. John was the only soldier to survive that attack, and he was injured from it. He shows his scar to her across his right arm and shoulder area, And, he tells her he doesn't actually have full range of motion anymore with his arm. John tells her also that, the pain is fresh right now. And obviously it feels really bad, but it does get better if she just gives it a chance. And, she looks at John, who's visibly reaching his hand out for her now. And, she kind of feels, maybe he's right, to give it a chance and to calm down a bit, think about it more. Because obviously when she came out here, it was very fresh and it was very new. So obviously she was being very impulsive and emotional. So when she is about to reach out for John's hand to help her get back in, her high heel, one of her heels actually breaks, causing her to lose her balance and fall. John at this moment fearlessly jumps out of the window to get her, hoping that he could still reach the window, kind of like one of those things where you have one arm holding on and the other arm outward. So technically he's out of the window, but not fully out, like he still has an arm keeping him, to the building. He tries doing that, but when he grabs her, he loses his grip. So he starts falling with her. Now, he is, while they're falling, he's kind of trying to protect her, so when they do fall, at least, he'll take the brunt of the force. So probably he would die, but, she might get injured, but not necessarily, she has a chance of surviving. Basically, that's what I'm saying. A Green Lantern ring then suddenly appears before John, putting itself on his finger, turning him obviously into a Green Lantern, which allows him to construct a green cushion, which obviously he was thinking about, a cushion to, cushion his fall, which saves him his and Samantha's life. The ring then downloads basic information that John needs to use the ring into John's mind before he departs for Oa immediately. Because every Lantern does that. Once they get the ring, they go to Oa. So on Oa, John sees a statue of Hal Jordan, Thal Sinestro, other Lanterns in the Hall of Fallen Lanterns, which is a pretty cool thing I would think to see. The Hall of the Fallen Lanterns was in the last Green Lantern screenplay also, so it's not anything new here. But he's greeted immediately by Kilowog, who introduces himself as Green Lantern Corps Command Sergeant Major Kilowog. John then gets a message from a Guardian on his ring welcoming him and requesting his presence immediately at something called the Sanctuary, where Kilowog leads him to, where the Guardians basically give him a rundown of the Green Lantern Corps history. Now, if you remember from my previous screenplays, Kilowog technically now leads the Green Lantern Corps due to Hal Jordan's death. The Guardians, they're more of an advisory council now. They don't actually run the Green Lantern Corps anymore. And they explain, the ring to John Stewart. They explain, the history of it. It used to be Hal Jordan's ring, etc., etc. They explain actually that they've been searching for a new wearer of the ring for quite some time now, almost 3 years since Hal Jordan's death. And initially they weren't going to give the sector a new lantern, but eventually decided to give them one, which is why the ring came back to Earth, which was perfect timing because obviously it was when John did what he did, which exhibited a lot of willpower and dominance over fear, which is why he became the next Green Lantern. So Kilowog tells John that he will be essentially his drill sergeant, instructor, what have you, for probably the next 3 months, as that's, the usual time for training. We then see John, though, excelling at training due to his previous training as a Marine. He actually completes his training in a month, which is record time for any trainee completing his training on Oa. So he has a record. Awesome. John returns to Earth afterwards, now that he's that space sector is Green Lantern, and he actually visits Kyle, obviously, because that's his roommate, informing him, who Kyle informs him that the firm let him go due to his long absence, because it's been about a month. And Kyle also draws some designs for John, to try with the ring, construct designs, but also a new look, because obviously John currently has the basic Green Lantern uniform look, but he can change it if he wants, which he does, which he changes it to a much more him look, so to speak, not so boring, as he calls it. So John eventually, he flies around his sector when he gets a reading of an unknown object approaching, his sector. So John heads towards it, where he sees an armored being, which immediately tries attacking him once it spots him. John fights back, killing it with his superior marksmanship, because, it's not up close right now, it's still kind of far away. So while that thing is trying to shoot John John just kind of, snipes it, essentially. After reviewing the data that he gets from it, it starts self-destructing, which almost gets John, actually, but luckily John's able to make a shield in enough time so he's safe. He calls Kilowog, telling him what just happened, sending the data over to Kilowog, which, Kilowog's able to use to conclude that it's actually a Reach scout. John asks, his ring afterwards what the Reach is, to which the ring tells him they're a race that conquers planets using parasitic suits of armor, which finds a host, and then the host gets controlled by the armor to do whatever the Reach wants it to do. So John eventually calls Kilowog back, asking how they're back, since the ring said they were all destroyed a long time ago. Kilowog says he doesn't know how they're back, but investigation is now underway. And Kilowog warns John to be alert because more of them may come back. John quickly heads back to Earth as he's supposed to be helping a charity during this time period in Detroit for homeless children, doing a nice thing. I envision it as, he's probably entertaining the kids with the ring, making constructs, doing fun stuff with the kids. After a while, though, at the charity event, John receives an alert from the ring saying that unknown objects are approaching his sector yet again. So John wraps up what he's doing there at the charity event before flying off to around Neptune, around there, where he intercepts a few ships. He sees 3 Reach ships, which the ring then eventually classifies as 2 Reach Scarab Warriors in front of them. So basically there's 3 ships and then 2 Scarab Warriors in front of the ships. Now, 1 Scarab Warrior is in blue, 1 Scarab Warrior is in green armor. So you may be able to see what I'm going for here, maybe not, hopefully you do. John then calls for backup, but Kilowog says that all lanterns available right now, that would be available right now, are busy because Reach invasions are happening in multiple sectors across the galaxy right now. So Kilowog tells John, remind these posers, or poozers, however you like saying it, what the Green Lantern Corps is, and remind them, what it's all about. So John constructs a 540 rifle with the ring he has, a massive one, I must add, and releases a powerful blast that destroys one of the ships. Now at this moment, the Green Reach Warrior goes to attack John, not being at all passive by any means whatsoever. So this Reach Warrior exhibits quick slashing attacks, with blades it has on its arm. So if you know anything about the Reach, you know that their Scarab Warriors have different modes, like attack mode, speed mode, normal mode, things like that. So this Reach Warrior is more in speed mode. So it's very, very quick, just slashing at John, things like that. John, has a kind of shield up, protecting him. He's on the very defensive side right now, until John decides to just make blades himself with the ring, and he duels it for a brief fight before stabbing it in the head, and then blasting it completely, like disintegrating it basically with the energy blast. So it'd be a pretty cool fight scene to see that. Hopefully it'd be very well choreographed. I wonder, I'd leave it up to the director to come up with a way to do that, because technically they're in space, there's no gravity, so it would be interesting to see how they do this. The other ships, though, and the last Scarab Warrior are almost to Earth now, actually, because they kept on traveling, obviously. So John quickly gets there as fast as he can and makes a massive bubble around the Reach ships and Blue Scarab Warrior. Now, Scarab Warrior begins blasting at the the bubble vigorously, making it very hard for John to obviously hold onto the construct and keep it solid. He thinks about possible actions he could take, and the ring tells him that he can actually throw them into the sun, as that would be the best way to permanently get rid of the Reach threat that he's currently dealing with. So John proceeds with the plan as best he can, which he really strains himself greatly to do this. It takes a lot of willpower to hold this bubble because it has 2 Reach ships in it, and which obviously is blasting at the shield or the bubble, and also a Scarab Warrior who's blasting at the bubble. So this would be a really cool moment to really show John's strength with the ring, like his amount of willpower he's able to really exhibit, his his abilities as a Green Lantern. So the Scarab Warrior is actually able to what happens is the Scarab detaches itself from the host, and when John releases the bubble, because he obviously throws the ships and everything into the sun, the Scarab itself is able to kind of fly away, hitting to Earth, to get a new host, because obviously that's the closest inhabited planet. John obviously sees this and goes after it, blasting it with a massive energy blast, which visibly damages the Scarab as it crashes towards Earth. John does follow the Scarab's crash, projected, area, which ends up being in the Gulf of Mexico, closer to where Texas is. Wink, wink, if you know what I'm doing there. John kind of scans for it, but it's so deep in the water, the ring projects that there's a very low chance it's of threat anymore, and John takes that with relief, because obviously he just went through a shit ton of things with the Scarab. So he calls Kilowog again, telling him what's happened and that the Reach invasion, at least in this sector, is done. To which obviously Kilowog congratulates John, saying that they're having similar progress across the galaxy at the different sectors. And he actually promotes John from private to sergeant, which is quite a big jump, obviously, but it's well deserved. Which appears on John's shoulder. If I haven't mentioned it before, the way I'm going to do Green Lantern ranks, because obviously when Hal Jordan took over leadership of the Green Lantern Corps, he overhauled a few things, such as the ranking system for the Green Lanterns, making it a lot like the United States Armed Services. So now the rank of the Lantern appears on their right shoulder. So John's rank changes on his right shoulder to that of a sergeant's, which John kind of is just like, okay. Because obviously he was in the Marine Corps. We don't ever learn his rank in the Marine Corps because it's never revealed in the comics, so I couldn't find it to apply it. But it's presumed maybe it was a bit higher than this, because he's just kind of like, I was kind of expecting something else, but whatever. He's thankful, obviously, for what he has. John thanks Kilowog and returns home. So when John enters his apartment, though, back in Detroit, he sees Kyle there, but also he sees Superman, who offers him... When John goes back to his apartment and he opens the door, he sees Kyle, but he also sees someone else there, Superman, who he talks to Superman, and Superman offers him a place with the Justice League before the film would end. So that's it for Green Lantern Rebirth. I hope you guys liked it. There's more to come. The next one's Martian Manhunter, and then I believe after that it's the third Wonder Woman one, I believe. So yeah, comment below with your guys' thoughts. Which other screenplays would you like me to do? Even though I have all of them planned out already, it's always nice to see what you guys think I'm going to do next. Like talking to you guys about it, what ideas you have, because even though I have everything outlined at this point, I might change a few things, obviously, as time goes by. Originally, I was going to have Warworld and Mongol in this one, which obviously ended up not happening. So, yeah, it's Hybrid, and I'll see you guys later.